Hello everyone, so this is the weekly Zera Shimshon. So we're going to speak about Succot, not about the Parshat, because this Shabbat is Be'ezrat Hashem, the first day of Succot. So the weekly Zera Shimshon on Succot is going to be coming to Parshat Vayera, when Avraham Avinu alav Shalom has three guests, angels coming to his house that look like Aravim, like travelers, but they were really angels. When Avraham Avinu invited them into his house, he told them, "Ve'ishanu tachat ha'etz, come lean on the tree." And Zera Shimshon asked an interesting question: is when you want to have guests, you don't invite them to lean on the tree. You ask them to come home, come inside the house. And why leaning? At least sitting. You don't have a chair to pull up for them. Bring them a chair. Don't just let them lean on a tree. And another question that Zera Shimshon is asking is that we know we're having the holiday of Succot. And we know on Succot, why we have the Sukkah. The Sukkah is to celebrate, to remember the Ananei Kavod, the Ananim, the pillars of clouds that were surrounding the Jewish nation in the Midbar, in the desert, when they came out of Egypt, to protect them, one on the bottom, one on the top, and one on each side, and a seventh one in front of them, to show them which direction to go. And a lot of Midrashim talks about the Ananei Kavod. They say that the Ananei Kavod was not just protecting from the weather, from the sun, from the cold. Also, they used to put their clothes at the end of the day and take it back out of the cloud, freshly cleaned. There's a lot of miracles that happen in the Ananei Kavod. So we celebrate the holiday of Sukkot to remember the Ananei Kavod. And the question is, why do we have a holiday to celebrate Ananei Kavod and not the other miracles? We know the Ananei Kavod came in the merit of Aharon, but the man came in the merit of Moshe Rabbeinu, and the water came in the merit of the sister Miriam. So why don't we have a holiday to celebrate the water that came in the merit of Miriam? Or why don't we have a holiday that celebrates and make us remember the man that Hashem fed us in the merit of Moshe Rabbeinu, 40 years in the desert, food coming straight from the earth, from the heaven? So why only on the Ananei Kavod from Aharon we are celebrating a whole holiday for this? And another question is like this. The Midrash explained about Avraham Avinu that when he was being the guest, he asked Hashem that the same way he makes them lean outside on the tree. The Midrash says that Avraham Avinu actually built a sukkah for them. Also Hashem should build a sukkah for the Jewish nation when they come out of Mitzrayim. So the question is that we don't understand, why do we have sukkah? Because of Avraham building a sukkah? Or because of the Ananei Kavod that came in the merit of Aharon. So over here seems like we have contradictions in the Midrashim. So let's recap all the questions. The first question was, why Avraham Avinu doesn't tell them to sit down on a chair or to come inside, but now to lean against the tree? The second question is, why Avraham Avinu says and he prayed that the same way he's making a sukkah for the Malachim, Hashem should make for us also a sukkah when we're going to go in the Midbar, in the desert, coming out of Egypt. So, is it in the merit of Avraham or the merit of Aharon? Third question is, why do we celebrate the Ananei Kavod more than the other miracles like the man and the water, even though such great miracles were in the man and the water? And the fourth question is that another pasuk says that we're going to sit in a Sukkot, למען ידעו דורותיכם כי בסוכות הושבתי את בני ישראל בהוציאי אותם מארץ מצרים. Hashem tells us to build the Sukkah, to celebrate the holiday of Sukkot, in order to remind the future generations that Hashem put us in the Sukkah when we came out of Egypt. So, is it because of Aharon, the Ananei Kavod, or no? Because actual Sukkot that HaKadosh Baruch Hu made for us, and what's the connection with Avraham Avinu. And also it sounds like the point over here that the Pasuk is telling us to point out is that Hashem made a sukkah right when we came out. Be'otzi'i. Why do we care to know when the Ananekavot came or when the sukkah came? Why does it have to be exactly at that time? What do we have to know? As if the Pasuk wants to point us out, to point out for us this information that right when after we came out of Mitzrayim, Hashem put us in the sukkah. So the Zera Shimshon wants to explain, and he says something beautiful. He says, he brings a midrash that why do we celebrate sukkah right after Kippur? Technically, if we are celebrating something that happened after the exit of Mitzrayim, then we should be celebrating sukkah by the time of Pesach. No, in the winter, no, in the beginning of the winter. So why right after Yom Kippur we're celebrating Succot? So the Midrash says like this, because if somebody after the judgment of Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur would still be Chayav Galut, would have to be punished to go into exile. So we tell him, go out of the house, go in the sukkah, and accomplish this decree or this punishment of exile on yourself by leaving your house. And then you tell Hashem, that's it. We don't have to pay anymore. We don't have to be punished anymore. We punished ourselves. We afflicted ourselves by leaving the house and going into the sukkah. Another midrash says that by the time of Matan Torah, HaKadosh Baruch Hu made that everything was fixed in the Jewish nation, that the sin was fixed, was repaired, and Am Yisrael was not supposed to go ever again in Galut, in exile. And only because we did the Chet Egel, the golden calf, this caused us to go back into Galut. Like the Pasuk says, Ani amarti Elohim atem, ubnei elyon kulechem. We say this every Tuesday in the Tefillah, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu said that when he looked at us after Matan Torah, he thought we were like angels, like we were free, not like regular humans. Elohim atem, meaning that no more exile, no more shibud malchuyot. Everything was done, freedom, al tikri charut, ela cherut ala luchot, that we were completely free. But then everything broke apart after the Chet HaEgel, and we had to go to exile again. So why do we have to go to exile? What was fixed? So the Midrash says that really we were supposed to be 430 years in exile. But we came out faster from Mitzrayim, because we started calculating from the birth of Yitzhak, from the Brit B'nei Betarim. But physically we were not in exile for 430 years. But only 210 years. So we're missing many years. And because Hashem took us out early, then we will have to be in Galut again after Galut Mitzrayim. The exile was not finished, so we're going to have to be in exile again. But HaKadosh Baruch Hu, when he took us out of Mitzrayim, where did he put us? In the Sukkah. Why he put us in the Sukkah? To tell us, don't worry, even though you didn't complete the 430 years of Galut, you won't have to go to Galut again. Why? Because I put you in the Sukkah. The Sukkah is like Galut, it's like the exile. So don't worry, you're going to pay for it over here in the Sukkah. If a person sits in the Sukkah, he fulfills the decree of being in Galut. And therefore Hashem told the Jewish nation, look, I put you in the Sukkah. Remember, celebrate the holiday of Sukkot. So you should tell your children and see that Hashem, right when we came out of Mitzrayim, he put the Jewish nation in the Sukkah. Why? We have to point out the timeline, that exactly when we came out, he put us in the Sukkah, because that's the whole thing, that's the whole Chidush. That's exactly what we want to teach, that even though we left early, Hashem put us in the Sukkah in order for us to be saved from future exile. But then, after the Chet HaEgel, then we had to go in exile again. But what do we learn from this? We see from this that sitting in the Sukkah is saving us from future exile. And this is why a person has to think about when he sits in the Sukkah. And this is why we celebrate the Sukkah for the Ananei Kavod, because it has nothing to do with the man that we got in the merit of Moshe Rabbeinu, the water we got in the merit of Miriam. No, it's the fact that Hashem put us in a Sukkah, or He brought us the Ananei Kavod, He took us in the desert, in exile. What when we came out of Mitzrayim, in order for us not to be in future exiles. So this is the whole thing we're celebrating on Sukkot. And when we ask why Avraham told the guests to sit outside on the tree, to lean on the tree, and not to sit, because sitting is more comfortable. You have to lean. You have to lean and you have to be outside, leaning on a tree, meaning not to have a normal residency outside. No, you're not building a house outside of your house. You have to be in a sukkah in order for it to be feeling like exile, like galut, and therefore you're saving yourself from future galuyot, future exiles from Am Yisrael. So Be'ezrat Hashem, with this upcoming holiday of Sukkot, you're going to be sitting in a sukkah, fulfilling the mitzvah from the Torah to sit in a sukkah, and we have the kavanah, we have in mind that us living at home and sitting in a sukkah will bring Mashiach closer and closer, because we're going to fulfill and accomplish the exile even more and more until the end of the last galut, the last exile, and the coming of Mashiach. Shabbat Shalom and Chag Sameach.